Okay, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ruach HaKodesh, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. So they have this article I ran into not too long ago. Spirit helped me to jump into it. It's basically, dealing with the whole Iran and the U.S. thing. What brothers have been going into since the attack started. And it really shows you the time that we're in, so much so to where even the those who aren't in the truth are starting to somewhat sound like us, somewhat preach the truth, in a specific way. The talk of the town, if you will, is all all hinged on prophecy. The title here reads, U.S. commanders want to make war with Iran as bloody as possible to bring about biblical end times officers report. Now, this article, I read through it when I first stumbled upon it, and it goes into how basically you have certain military commanders, warning their troops about how the war that they're dealing with Iran is going to lead to Armageddon, right? Which is scriptural. It is what brothers have been bringing out. And basically, how in the article goes into how, these things are causing, unrest within the military or whatever, right? And I perceive this to be, and I speak as a man, but I perceive this to be another one of Esau's, just their ploys, because remember, not too long ago, how they had that big ass meeting with all the generals of the military and so on and so forth with Pete Hegseth and so on and so forth, right? And they had that, Lord knows what, what the hell they discussed, right? But, when have you known, military generals to come, and be, saying things outwardly like this, and we know that ultimately what this devil wants to do is do away with religion as a whole, so you best believe they're going to come up against Christianity and lump us in with that shit, man. Religion as a whole, they want to do away with that shit. There's this system that they build, that they create. That's what they're going to want you to worship, and in order for that, they have to do away with what people worship now. So, them using, rhetoric like, is causing unrest or low morale within the troops and so on and so forth when bringing up Christianity and so on and so forth. You can kind of see where it's headed, man. But jumping into the article, one non-commissioned officer said he was directed to tell his troops that Trump was anointed by Yahweh Shai. Here it says Jesus, but we know his name is Yahweh Shai, and that war with Iran was all part of the Most High's divine plan to bring about Armageddon, right? Because we know that this world, this war is, that Amalek is going to draw America into this war with Iran, which ultimately is going to escalate to Iran's, allies hopping in, and the more of America's allies hopping in, and eventually what is going to go nuclear, right? And in the midst of that war, Yahweh Shai is going to return. The apostles, elders, and bishops, they've been preaching about this for how long, man? Decades, literal decades. And now this, seems to be the talk of the town. It goes to show you, time and time again, the Lord, lets you know who his, who he's dealing with. It reminds me of back in, I believe it's 1st or 2nd Kings, right? Where Elijah, let's see. Not bow down. Here, okay, it's First Kings. Here, this is the book of First Kings chapter 18, verse 22. Then said Elijah unto the people, even I only remain a prophet of the Lord Yahweh, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And I will dress the other bullock, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And call ye on the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of the Lord, and the God that answereth by fire, let him be the Most High. And all the people answered and said, it is well spoken. Right? So, you know, the Elijah basically proposed this plan to basically show, you know, who is the real prophet and who is the real God. And it's the same way that the Lord is revealing, you know, who are his men, who are the men that he's chosen to send his message, man. Continuing with the article, in less than a week, the U.S. and Israel's war has rendered unfathomable suffering upon the people of Iran. Over 180 schoolgirls and staffers were killed in a massacre this weekend, and several hospitals have reportedly been struck amid numerous other attacks on civilians. But some U.S. troops are being told the bloodletting is all a part of the Most High's plan, in which everything is, you know, all the Lord, everything is what's the word? Orchestrated, right? Orchestrated to the will of Yahweh Ba'ashem Avashai, every single thing. At a briefing on Monday, as President Donald Trump unleashed what has been called a carpet bombing of Tehran, a combat unit commander reportedly told non-commissioned officers, NCOs, that the commander-in-chief was anointed by Yahweh Shai to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to earth, right? And this is not far off. Scriptures say that the Lord controlleth, roughly paraphrasing, the minds of the kings to do his bidding, to do his will, right? Just as he did with, I believe it was Nebuchadnezzar, how, you know, Nebuchadnezzar was referred to as what? A servant of the Lord. Why? Because the Lord had the spirit on Nebuchadnezzar to basically conquer and do his will, just as all the other kings and just as he's doing with Trump, man. Because it's prophecy for, you know, the U.S., Israel, Iran, China, Russia, all these, you know, superpowers to go into one big world war, being World War III, which is Armageddon, right? We're going to grab that. And, you know, basically be the end of their kingdom when those nukes get launched. That's the Lord's will. So as we read here, that the commander-in-chief was anointed by Yahweh Shai to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to earth. The Lord is working on the mind of Trump, working on the mind of, you know, whoever, in order to incite this war. But we know that the end, right, when those nukes actually get launched, that's not going to come until the MOTB, you know, is made mandatory. We read that in Revelation 14. Let's get Revelation. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 16, verse 13. We get to start here. The subtitle reads Armageddon. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, in which these 3 unclean spirits represent the you know, 3 city states of Esau. Basically, you have the Vatican, which is the religious, headquarters, for lack of better words, London, which is the financial, and here, the Washington, D.C., the military. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, the Roman Empire, also known as America, in the revival, right? America and its allies in revival that make up, that same Roman Edomite Empire, man. And out of the mouth of the beast, being NATO and the EU, America's allies, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, the Roman Catholic Church. For they are the spirits of devils doing what? Working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to battle of that great day of the Most High Almighty, right? Because it's the Lord's determination to gather these nations, man. I believe we read that in Joel chapter 3. But let's just do this. Zephaniah chapter 3, Salakia. It's the book of Zephaniah chapter 3. We start here, verse 8, straight to the point. Therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination, right, meaning what? This is the Lord's will, is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. For then will I turn to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of the Lord Yahweh, to serve him with one consent. But seeing here, to pour out them upon my indignation, how is the Lord doing that? Through the return of his son, whom this world ignorantly calls Jesus, but his name is Yahweh Shai. Right? We read that in we can get that, right? Because we read it in multiple places, but we can get that in 2nd Ezra 13. We can start from the top. And it came to pass, 2nd Ezra chapter 13 verse 1, and it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night. And Salakia, if I seem to be rushing, because I kind of am, but I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with thousands of heaven. And that man being who? Yahweh Shai. The thousands of heaven, then is the angels, the host of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. Right? Scriptures say that, roughly paraphrasing, all the people of the earth will bewail him and mourn, or basically see the Lord in the sky and mourn, man. Like as the earth faileth and whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burn that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire. Why? Because it's not that the Lord, was fire breathing, but pretty much at his command, at his will, you had the chariots, which are so-called UFOs, or the vehicles of the angels in Yahweh Shai, what? Shooting down laser beams, shooting down, divine fire, man. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men. Who is that? The nations. All these, the militaries of this world that are going to be gathered over there in the Middle East, as we see, to battle each other. But in the midst of that, that's when Yahweh Shai is going to return. I remember this clip of some president, I think. He basically mentioned, if we would we not all put our differences aside to fight the basically, if they were at war and there was a threat, an alien threat that came, would they not put their differences aside to fight against that? Why the hell would he bring that up? Because of this, man. These devils know. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven, to subdue the man that came out of the sea. Right? Saying came out of the sea because the heavens, right, the space up there, that is also considered, a form of sea. We read that in the book of Genesis, I believe, the 1st chapter. But Yahweh Shai and the angels, they're going to appear from that fourth dimension that they dwell in, man. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and blew up upon it. But I would have seen the region of place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not, going into the huge chariot that Yahweh Shai had. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. Why? Because the Lord, as we read, which we can grab it. It's the book of Proverbs chapter 21 verse 1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord Yahweh. As the river of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. So the spirit, the mind of these rulers, that garner their actions, that's all up to the Lord. And that's for everyone, really. So even though, these men in the military, these armies over there in the Levant, they're going to see the power that Yahweh Shai comes in. They're going to be afraid, yet they're still going to fight him, because that's the spirit that the Lord is going to put on him, just to kick their ass. And after this, verse 8, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth, as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. Right, and again, it's not that Yahweh Shai was fire breathing, but at his command, the fire went out. Or at his wanting, the fire went out. Verse 10, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth, where I read that. Verse 11, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitudes which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. Right? So that's, basically what this article is going into, or what it's talking about. How Yahweh Shai, they say Jesus is going to return, in the midst of World War III, and how the Lord is orchestrating World War III to, start up for that. That is correct. Even though they might not know the actual details or be able to go into detail of the truth of it, that as a basis is correct. The complaint sent by one of those non-commissioned officers was just one of at least 110 similar reports received by the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, MRFF, since Trump first launched strikes on Saturday, right? Which I believe we never finished Revelation 16. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of power almighty. Right? And another thing is, these spirits that is doing the gathering, right? Esau is really stirring up the tensions for this war, for this war, not knowing that this war is going to be their end. But even then, knowing that, there's nothing they can do about it, because it's the Lord that's controlling them. The Lord got them in this spirit. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. Right? And Yahweh Shai is going to come as a thief to those who haven't been watching. And even if you're watching, you have to be watching and also, working accordingly. So so that when he does come as a thief, not only does he not come as a thief to you, but he's come in your pleasure. You know, you are seen with pleasure in his sight, right? Not for your, you know, destruction. And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon, right? When you go into this word Armageddon in the Hebrew or in the Greek, Armageddon, right? But in the Hebrew of the origin, let's see here, Magadwan, right? Let's go back. It should be Harmagadwan. Yeah, Har. Hill, mountain, hill, country, mount. Magadwan, place of crowds, ancient city. Alright, when you break the word down, Harmagadwan, you have the Har, which is basically a hill, you know, a valley, a mountain. Ma, which is of, I believe, of or the, and then Gad, which means troops, and then the Wan makes the troops plural, so it'd be valley of the troops or mountain of the troops, and that's going to be over there in the Middle East, the Levant. Okay, now we can go back to the article. In compliance with the First Amendment, the Department of Defense has long adopted rules against proselytizing within the armed forces, but under Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, an evangelical Christian who has said the West must wage a crusade against Islam, Christian nationalist invocations in the military have become commonplace, right? In which that's all orchestrated, man. Mikey Weinstein, the president and founder of MRFF, and an Air Force veteran who served in the White House of former President Ronald Reagan, told independent journalist Jonathan, I believe it was Ronald Reagan, who brung up, you know, if the countries of this world are at odds with each other, would they not put their differences aside, you know, to battle the, you know, the greater foe? Speaking about so-called aliens. If I'm not mistaken, that was him. President Ronald Reagan told independent journalist Jonathan Larson that the group has been inundated Slovakia, with complaints from NCOs since Saturday, which all have one damn thing in freaking common. Our MRFF clients report the unrestricted euphoria of their commanders and command chains as to how this new biblically sanctioned war is clearly the undeniable sign of expeditious approach of the fundamentalist Christian end times, as vividly described in the New Testament book of Revelation, Weinstein said. Right now, when you know, have you had you know, commanders, you know, doing things like this? You know, I'm not very old, but I've never, you know, witnessed this. It all seems too you know, convenient, right? Clearly clearly this is a ploy to somehow, you know, I'm going to say demonize, you know, Christianity, but really religion as a whole. Many of their commanders, he added, are especially delighted with how graphic this battle will be, zeroing in on how bloody all of this must become in order to fulfill and be in 100% accordance with fundamentalist Christian end of the world eschatology, in which Christians don't teach this. You know, Christians ain't they didn't know nothing really about the book of Revelation until, you know, the Lord put the Spirit on his men to really dive in and bring out the true understanding of that, man. You know, the true Christians being, you know, the Israelites who believe in Yahweh Shai. That's us. Many of their commanders, he added, are especially delighted with how graphic this battle will be. You know, Esau, they love death, they love bloodshed. zeroing in on how bloody all of this must become in order to fulfill and be in 100% accordance with fundamentalist Christian end of the world eschatology. According to Larson, who first reported on the MRWF's findings on Monday, the message has been spread far and wide as U.S. troops rained missiles down upon Iran. Larson reported that the complaints came from more than 40 different units spread across at least 30 military installations and have involved commanders in every branch of the U.S. military. That's, this is just seeming more and more orchestrated, man. They definitely discussed this at that big ass meeting they had not too long ago. One non-commissioned officer who did not identify himself out of fear of retaliation said his commander urged us to tell our troops that this was all a part of the Most High's divine plan. And he specifically referenced numerous citations out of the book of Revelation referring to Armageddon, which we just broke that word down, Armageddon, Valley of the Troops, or Mountain of the Troops, and the imminent return of Yahushua HaMashiach. Here it says JC. The NCO added that his commander had a big grin on his face when he had said all of this, which made his message seem even more crazy. You see how they put in that crazy stipulation on those who believe in this, right? We see where it's all headed, man. Our commander would probably be described as a Christian first supporter, he said. He has been this way for a very long time and makes it clear that he desires all of us under him to become just like him as a Christian. But what he did this morning was so toxic and over the line that it shocked many of us in attendance at the ops readiness briefing. The NCO identified himself as a Christian, but emailed MRWF on behalf of 15 of his troops, which included at least one Muslim and one Jewish person. So you see how they throwing everybody in that big Christian, Muslim, Jewish. He said that their commander's remarks destroy morale and unite cohesion, Slovakia, and are in violation of the oaths we swore to support the Constitution. There go the demonization right there. They want to bring down religion, man. Bring down the belief in the God, whether it be a Christian, ultimately it's going to be coming up against us, because that's the real goal. Those who believe in the true God, know the truth. That's who they really want to get after. But, in order to get at us, they always have to gradually, do things. They can't come at us directly. So they have to find a way to lump us in, with bullshit, pretty much. This photo here, U.S. troops were told Iran war is for Armageddon. Return of Yahushua advocacy group reports commanders giving similar message as more than 30 installations in every branch of the military. Come on now. That's clearly a planned thing. Clearly a planned thing. Christian nationalism has long simmered just under the surface of U.S. military culture and has been invoked by presidents of the past. And it's very it really is a coincidence how this happens. Around the time you had Trump saying how he wanted to make America, a Christian first nation again, and we were built on Christianity, and make this a God-loving country again, and you have Pete Hegseth with this prayer or whatever, Now somehow Christianity is just all in the military, right? Now they're all just so hard believers, and this is going to happen because the Lord wants it to. And come on now, bro. Christian nationalism has long simmered just under the surface of U.S. military culture and has been invoked by presidents of the past, including George W. Bush, who referred to his war on terror as a crusade. But Hegseth, who regularly hosts Christian prayer services at the Pentagon during work hours, rails against secular humanism and the godless left. and has hosted a notorious fundamentalist, Pastor Doug Wilson, who opposes the right of women to vote and calls for the U.S. to be a Christian theocracy, at the Pentagon has dropped any pretenses of religious pluralism. Search this word up, or phrase up. Religious pluralism is an attitude or policy regarding the diversity of religious belief system coexisting in society. Okay. While America's relationship with Iran is influenced by all the typical geopolitical factors of oil, culture, and nuclear weaponry, this is a part of American foreign policy that is influenced by apocalyptic evangelical theology, wrote Josh Olds, a pastor and theologian, on Monday for Baptist News Global. And really, as we read, everything, is going on is the will of the Heavenly Father. Everything, man. Christian fundamentalists, some of whom have the ear of the White House, he said, view an Iranian war with Israel as central to triggering Armageddon, during which the Most High miraculously strike down Israel's enemies. Now, where was this? I believe it was around 2023, right? When we had the big ass World War III talks. Where was this before? Now all of a sudden they have a big ass meeting. Now we having World War III talks, and now they bringing up Christianity and Armageddon. Where was this before, man? If it was there before and I was just, ignorant, I just wasn't paying attention, then Salakia. But I don't remember talks like this before, when World War III was a trending topic and all the memes and shit was coming out. When Ukraine was doing first invaded Russia and shit. This shit was nowhere to be found, bro. And this is why scriptures say we're not ignorant of Satan's devices, man. We see what's coming. No matter what they do, right? We know the end goal, so it doesn't even matter, right? Let's say you playing on the basketball court and you got a nigga dribbling, doing all these elaborate dribble moves and step backs and spin moves and whatever. Yet you know exactly the spot he's going to try and shoot to. So you just step back and waiting on his ass to go run in that spot and try to shoot so you can block the fuck out the ball. That's how it is, man. We already know their end goal, what their shot is going to be, what they're trying to do. Continuing, Christian fundamentalists, some of whom have the ear of the White House, he said, view an Iranian war with Israel as central to triggering Armageddon, during which the Most High will miraculously strike down Israel's enemies. Yahweh Shai will return to earth and Christians will be raptured to heaven according to biblical teachings, right? And according to biblical teachings, this, as they would believe it, is not true. Israel, being the actual Israelites, the so-called Negroes, the so-called Latinos, and the so-called Native American Indians, in which that is the main, way you will identify Israel today. But really, Israel is scattered throughout the whole world. But dealing with Israel over here in America, right? Those who repent and turn back to the Lord in 100% truth and sincerity, ultimately being the Lord's elect, they will be beamed up. I don't know where they get this word rapture from. That's nowhere in the scriptures. But yes, they will be beamed up and, saved out of the destruction. But to me, it seems here that they think it's only going to be, around the Middle East or wherever. No, right? You're going to have destruction over there, where Israel get fucked up too by missiles. The Holy Land has to be cleansed as well, so that's going to be destroyed. And these heathen nations who serve under us, they're going to rebuild it back up in the kingdom of heaven. And America, so-called, or aka Babylon the Great, is also going to have its destruction, where it's destroyed forever, just completely turned into a desert land, man. And that's what the Lord's elect over here in America have to be beamed up to escape. But that's only for those, the elect nation of Israel, the true Israelites who believe in Yahweh Shai, not Christians who believe in Jesus, and the Israelis or the so-called small hats over there in their land. They're no, unless they're actual Jake and repent and turn back to Yahweh Shai, then yeah, in the kingdom they'll be they'll come back to the fold and whatever. But continuing, he said that while Iran's Muslim leaders are often accused of being dangerously irrational out of blind religious fundamentalism, it is increasingly clear that American actions are shaped by it as well. Right? So that means religion must be a bad thing, right? Because we see how these Iranian Muslim leaders operate. How are they looked at in the American view? Devils, demons, bad men, so on and so forth. So if they're, irrational out of blind religious fundamentalism, and America is as well, we got to face that, right? In just over 3 days, U.S. and Israeli strikes have killed at least 787 people in Iran, according to a Tuesday report from the Iranian Red Crescent Society, including hundreds of civilians in addition to schools and hospitals. Attacks have been reported against crowded residential buildings, a radio and TV broadcast center, and a sports complex. Donald Trump partnered with Israel to bomb Iran because of the influence of eschatology that sees conflict with Iran as setting the stage for fulfilled prophecy. Old said, "The irony is profound. A faith centered on loving enemies and making peace becomes a framework that welcomes and advocates violence." Right? Because, Christianity tells you how the Lord is just all loving and everything, sunshine and rainbows, when that's, not reality. When you come into this truth, right, and you understand the true gospel of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, you understand reality, the truth of the situation, the truth of how the Most High operates, man. And it's not just all love. The irony is profound. A faith centered on loving enemies and making peace becomes a framework that welcomes and advocates violence. And why is that? Because they want this to be the viewpoint of Christianity, so that they can come after it and ultimately lump other religions into it as a whole. It used to be all loving, but now it's violence, man. We don't need violence within our walls. The result is not the advance of the Most High's kingdom, but it's irrevocable damage in the eyes of the world. And that's where he's wrong, right? It's definitely the advance of the Most High's kingdom, because even this, what's going on, the Lord is pulling all the strings, right? Let's get that in the book of Romans. I believe it's verse 12. Romans chapter 9 verse 16. So it reads, we can start here at verse 15. For he said to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. So then it is not of him that willeth, nor of him that runneth, but of the Most High that sheweth mercy. So it's not about what you do, because the Lord orchestrates what you does, what you do. Let's also get the book of, is it Isaiah? It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 55. We start here at verse 9. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For as the rain cometh down, and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, and maketh it bring forth and bud, that I may give seed to the sower and bread to the eater. Basically going into the power of the Lord, right, to perform all these things. And how the earth is always gonna rain and therefore water the plants and so on and so forth for crops to grow. Just as that always happens, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void. The Lord's words are always going to do what they're set forth to do, or bring to pass what he said would happen. But it shall accomplish that which I please, and I shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. So all everything is going according to the will of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. The Lord does not make mistakes. He doesn't have to retract a word that he's given out, or a prophecy that he has said would happen through his men. No, it's going to come to pass, and it's going to come to pass exactly how he said it, man. And that's just that. So I think I'll close it out here. The willing, this video was informative or edifying in some way, shape, or form. And once more, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakha HaKodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the hopeful elect.